Evan Lazar covers the Patriots for Patriots.com. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Evan Lazar, sir, hello.
How you guys doing?
Evan, what's going on?
Not much, Hardy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are things over the weekend?
Things are good. You know, you get a day off here and reset a little bit, and then we're into preseason week 1 already, which is pretty hard to believe. It feels like we just started, but this one's been moving pretty quickly. No joint practices so far and things like that. So a grind a little bit there last week with the Heat, but so far it's been moving pretty quickly, and we'll see on Thursday night how it looks.
Now, if you're wondering why they have instant rapport, Hardy and Evan Lazar, they're thick as thieves, these two.
Evan and I don't think we ever did a pre or post together, Evan. I mean, you're in on Patriots Unfiltered all the time, but you were too good to join us for the pre and post, or you had other things to do, I guess.
Evan, why were you too good for that?
I don't get asked to do it, honestly, because I have other responsibilities on game day. And when the team's on the road, I'm with them on the road. So I leave that to Paul and Mike and you, Hardy. But yeah, we kind of just have different responsibilities on game day.
All right, so let's get to what was going on in training camp over the weekend and what we missed. One thing is that Judon came back and he put pads on. Kind of take us through, and I guess I'd credit Mayo.
Yeah.
Because last year, let me ask you, I guess, a series of questions about this, Evan. Last year, during when Judon was upset with his contract, he never put on pads. Is that correct? Until it was rectified?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so do you give Mayo credit? I'm not saying, because if you don't, I'm not saying you're saying he's a bad coach or anything, but should Mayo get some credit for handling this in Judon getting out there, putting on pads, even though at least a new contract or a guarantee money or whatever they need to do hasn't been announced yet?
Maybe a little bit. The way I see it is that Matthew Judon, first week of training camp, comes to the podium and says that he's going to be a good sport about all of this and handle it differently than he did last year and not sit out practice because that wasn't him and he's a football player and all that kind of stuff. And then we had the antics that he had, pulled with Mayo and Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh last Monday. And I was like, well, what happened to being a different guy, right? And then we have this meeting with Gerard Mayo, and it seems like maybe that was the messaging was, let's not do this time around. Let's not make this more difficult than it needs to be. And I will say on the first day that he was out there in pads, in team drills, he was pretty limited. It was like one play here and there, but he wasn't out there for the full gamut. He was a little bit more involved on Saturday, but I wouldn't say that we're at full tilt Matthew Judon quite yet in terms of his participation. Maybe we're at a 75% clip instead of 100%.
Evan, Matthew Judon look, there's no doubt he's a good player, but he played 4 games last year. He's going to be 32 years old. Like, how big a part of this defense does he need to be? Because, without him, they were a pretty good defense last year.
Well, their pass rush definitely took a hit without him. And now when you take Christian Barmore out of it as well, that's another element that I do think really helps Matthew Judon, maybe even more than it helped Godshaw, just because they still need that pass rush presence coming from somewhere. It's a lot like, a receiver, a number one receiver, where teams will double team the number one receiver. Matthew Judon draws all the attention up front from the opposing offensive line. And that was what allowed Josh Uche to have a great year a couple years ago, and that takes the pressure off the interior a little bit, and that doesn't force them to blitz and do different things up front to get pressure all the time. So when I look at it with the Patriots right now, their pass rush the last couple padded practices, I thought has taken a noticeable step back without having a guy like Christian Barmore in there. So I'd be careful if I was them about this being a house of cards, that if you pull Judon out of it, then I don't know how much disruption they're going to really be getting on opposing quarterbacks. So I do think he matters a lot for their defense in the short term. I wouldn't necessarily go out there and give him a lucrative multi-year contract extension, but I do think it makes a lot of sense for the Patriots to keep him for the short term.
What if you could get a second or a third for him? Would you trade him?
I would trade him simply because I feel like he's not going to be on the next really competitive, great Patriots team. That's they're not really in the same window right now. As you guys mentioned, he's 32 years old. The Patriots are in year one of a rebuild. So they're not exactly aligned in what each is trying to accomplish, I would say, this season. But I wonder about his trade value at this time of year. I'm not sure this is exactly when you maximize trade value. If you can hang on to him to the trade deadline and see where the Patriots are at that point, if they're 2-6 at the deadline or something like that, then obviously you shop him and you look to move him for something. But until then, I don't know if you're truly maximizing his value now that you didn't trade him before the draft.
Yeah, I mean it's all about predicting, I would say the second half of the season and the season beyond, because like you said, Evan, it is Matthew Judon going to be part of the next great Patriots team? Now, you could say teams like Houston, they were probably looking a little more long-term too, and I think things happened for them offensively earlier than anticipated. Is there any reason to believe that what you've seen out of the Patriots offense so far in this training camp, that things are going to develop faster than anyone anticipates?
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to go all Houston Texans on it because that's pretty lofty expectations. But
Right.
I've definitely
It's pretty
seen
common to have a year like Stroud. You're saying that you're not expecting that? How dare you?
Yeah,
Typical
so-
media negative.
Yeah, negativepatriots.com guy.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what we are all the time. But yeah, no, it definitely feels better offensively right now. I'll give it that. And I think the two things that really stand out are one, they're getting significantly better play up front from the offensive line. And I mentioned some of the injuries and situations going on with the defensive front. So maybe that's part of it. And maybe we shouldn't overreact too much to it. But the way that I look at the offensive line right now is that they're actually giving Jacoby Brissett especially some time back there to make throws. And they look like a unit that's played together. That's, five guys on a string. It seems like Scott Peters, their new offensive line coach, has been hitting the ground running and doing a good job there so far. So if they can get a better than expected performance out of the offensive line, then that obviously makes everything else a lot easier for the offense. And we did see some pushback from the offense over the last couple of days. Gerard Mayo said it himself that he had to challenge the defense or kind of wake up the defense in between Friday and Saturday's practice, because on Friday, Jacoby Brissett kind of took it to the first team defense a little bit in 11 on 11. So I've been impressed with Jacoby Brissett. I think he's done exactly what they've asked him to do in terms of all the different elements of why he's here. Mentorship, holding the bridge quarterback type of deal right now, and he's played well. He's aggressive. He understands the system. I've been impressed with him, and I don't think that if Drake Maye wins this job at some point, it's not going to be by default like it was with Cam Newton and Mac Jones in 2021. He's going to have to take this thing from Jacoby.
All right, let's talk about Drake Maye. It's going to be the story of preseason. First of all, how does he look? And second of all, how much do you think he'll play Thursday?
I do think he'll play Thursday because we don't know how many regular season games off the jump he's going to play. So these are his opportunities to get live game reps right now, and I think the Patriots should take full advantage of that. In terms of how he's looked, I think he's thrown the ball well. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that the physical tools are all there, which should be reassuring to Patriots fans, I think, a little bit, just because that wasn't always the case here in the last couple of years, where you had some doubts about Mac Jones's physical ceiling. I don't think you have those doubts at all about Drake Maye. With that being said, there's two types of quarterbacks. There's a layup quarterback who just hits all the in structure or on schedule throws and kind of lets the offense or the system do the heavy lifting. And then there's the playmakers, and Drake Maye is more of a playmaker than he is a layup quarterback. And right now in practice, I think what they're trying to do is hone in on the layup stuff and get him better in structure. His footwork, his timing, his rhythm in the offense, his accuracy at the first and second level of the defense. They know what he can do down the field and they know what he can do when he runs around and makes plays with his instincts. What they're trying to get him to do is play quarterback, right? Sit there and read out a defense and throw the ball on time. And at times that has been bumpy for him, I would say. But in general, I like the approach of we know what you can do. We know what your superpowers are, but let's try to get you to be more well-rounded and more consistent, which is what his problem was at North Carolina.
All right. Well, Colin Cowherd came out last week and he said, look out, everyone. Joe Milton, 6th-round pick from Tennessee, a 6th round or 5th round, whatever pick he was, late round pick from Tennessee. Yeah. It's going to be a Purdy, Trey Lance situation like it was in San Francisco. Joey Milton, he's going to start for your New England Patriots. How has Joe Milton looked?
All right. Well, first of all, there's just no indications whatsoever of that being the case. The other day on Saturday, Joe Milton took 3 reps in 11-on-11s the entire day. 3.
Well, how many did Zappy take?
Well, Zappy's not even in the conversation either, is he? You know, right? So we're talking about Brissett and Drake Maye dominating the reps here, and then Joe Milton or Bailey Zappi, whoever day it is to take sort of the mop-up reps as a third quarterback, they've been more or less rotating those reps through those 2 guys. So you have Brissett for a while, Maye for a while, and then when they want to give everybody a breather, they throw the third guy out there and they give those opportunity periods, as they call them, where it's back into the roster players, and that's when Joe Milton is getting his opportunities. There's no doubt about it that he has one of the most ridiculous arms I've ever seen. I mean, this guy can absolutely throw the ball a mile, but also he can drive it 100 miles an hour too, and I think that's been honestly more impressive than the deep ball is how he can fit the ball down the field into tight windows on a line. I mean, he just really has a bazooka. Now, when you talk to people that follow college football and are into college football, they tell you that this is exactly what they heard about Joe Milton at Michigan, exactly what they heard about Joe Milton at Tennessee, and it never really came to fruition for him at the college level. Oh. So he's still looking for that, right? He's still looking for all of it to come together.
But he only had 6 years of college. He only had 6 years with 3 programs and was a full-time starter, one of them.
Yes.
You're telling me that he's not going to start for the Patriots?
Probably not. And he also, really convinced those programs, Michigan and Tennessee, no slouch of programs here, that he was going to be the real deal for them at quarterback in practice. He looks great in practice. There's no doubt about it because of just his physical tools are just immense. He's 6'5", he's 230 pounds, and he's got a huge arm. So obviously when you're out there in a red non-contact jersey and all that kind of stuff, you're going to look great. But then they get into the games and there's just always been something missing for him. Can he put it all together at this level? I'm not going to rule it out because it's unfair to him, but more times than not, you can guess that that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, well, he convinced the programs to get him a scholarship. He convinced Tennessee to play him his 6 year.
Well, he convinced Michigan to play him too in the COVID year.
He started
off as their quarterback.
Yeah, he started off as their quarterback. That's true. You're right. Yeah, he started. Yeah. But he was a junior and he started as their quarterback. You're correct. All right. Yeah, he sucks. All right, but it's just my take on it, Evan. But I talk about him too much because I'm so proud of myself for having seen him play. There's no reason that kid shouldn't have been good. He throws too hard. That's the problem. Have you seen just real quick, have you seen the balls, those like short passes bounce off receivers' hands because he can't slow it down? Yeah.
Yeah, he's thrown a couple of those for sure at the first level of the defense, especially just guys 5 yards away from him and it's coming in at 99 miles an hour. And you put it down as, well, it's technically a drop, but is it really a drop? Not all drops are equal type of thing. He threw one up the seam and Juju's had a tough camp. So I'm not trying to excuse Juju necessarily, but he threw one up the seam the other day to Juju that, just went right through his hands because it was going 150 miles an hour.
If you're a pro receiver and you're in practice, I don't want you doing that to me. Am I crazy? I don't want you breaking my finger, like throwing 99 on a and I'm barely exaggerating, like whipping a ball at me from 5 yards away. I guess some receivers at Tennessee, I actually heard Barth talking about this, would wear 2 sets of gloves. Like, if I'm a pro, you're going to break my hand in training camp? Am I out of my mind, or you probably don't think that's what's happening, right?
No, I don't think you're totally out of your mind, because I can't imagine that that's a fun situation to be in. And it's definitely the knock on him that I have right now, other than the fact that the way that they would have to call plays and stuff like that. And this is true for any quarterback to an extent, but they would obviously have to cater things to him in terms of his skill set.
Yeah, they couldn't throw.
But the biggest thing I would say would be that, touch and just taking a little bit off the ball, but throwing with touch, and having those pillowy throws at the first level, or layering a throw in there instead of just all gas, no brakes. That's definitely what's holding him back at the moment.
All right. Well, great stuff. Evan Lazar, Patriots.com. We always love having you on. Ryan Beaton got you because he's producing the hell out of the thing. Thank you, Evan. We appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.